Control lets you configure some functionality of the analog pad. So I'm going to push Start, select System, and then push up until I get to Control. The first parameter is PSPSeq. This sets the rate at which the analog pad modifies parameters. You push the D-pad up or down in order to change this value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this value all the way down to 0 by pushing down the D-pad and pushing X. Now, the higher the number, the faster the synthesizer parameters are modified. So 0 is the slowest that you can modify parameters. So I'm going to trigger a couple of steps by pushing X. And now if I hold triangle and push the analog pad up, you can see the frequency changes very slowly. And if I hold down the left trigger while doing this, the frequency changes very, very slowly. So you can get a very high degree of precision with it. And even if you hold down triangle and the right trigger, you can't change parameters very quickly. Now, if I go back to the control menu and set the PSPSeq to a very high value, if I set it to 9, press X, hold triangle, move the analog pad up and down, you can see that the freq value changes very quickly. Even if I hold the left trigger, it still changes pretty quickly, and if I hold the right trigger, you can change it incredibly fast. So I'm going to delete these two triggered steps just for now. And this APAD sensitivity control only affects modifying synthesizer parameters. It doesn't change anything else, and it only affects the analog pad. It doesn't affect the digital pad. So the next option under control is APAD nav. So I'll select that. And this allows you to select how the analog pad is used when jumping from step to step in track. So normally when you push the analog pad to left or right, it jumps 8 steps at a time, syncing on divisible by 8 boundaries. So it'll go to step 0, to step 8, to step 16, 24, etc., etc. And this parameter is set to on by default. So if I set it to off, now we don't always jump like this. What it does is it jumps to either divisible by 8 boundary or the next triggered step. So to demonstrate, I will select it, and I will trigger a few steps. So now if I push the analog pad to the right, there's no triggered note, so it always jumps by 8. And if I push to the left, it always jumps by 8. But now if I push to the left at this point, instead of jumping by 8, it jumps to the next triggered step. Now the next triggered step happens to be on divisible by 8 boundaries, so it jumps to that. And now it jumps to the next triggered step, and so on and so forth. So it's just another way of changing how you can move around in the step sequencer. Pushing up and down the analog pad doesn't change anything about its behavior. So now I'm going to go back to control and turn that back on again. I'm also going to mute this track. So that's everything under control. Now the next option is about. So if I go to System and select About, this gives some information on PSPSeq. Now, if you're looking at this on your PSP, you'll notice that the information displayed here is different than what you're seeing on your PSP. The top 4 lines, the About box, the same, and they give the version number, the build date, and contact information. Below this, on the PSP version, are 4 more lines. The first 3 lines are the current time, the current battery life, and the amount of storage space left on the memory stick. The last line gives percentage loading and memory left for loading samples. The percentage loading has to do with the amount of processing power left to add new synthesizers to the current song. Each generator and effect unit requires a certain percentage of time to perform its calculations. Simple generators like a noise generator only take a couple percentage points, while more complicated generators can take up to 10%. All the processing loads for each generator and effect are listed in the user's guide and also in the quick reference sheet. The general point I want to make here is that you can't arbitrarily load 16 different generators and effects and expect them to run properly in PSPSeq. One of the arts to using this program is picking the most efficient instruments for whatever sound you're trying to make. In some cases, a simple instrument might be able to make the sound you're looking for, And that can help free up some time and some processing power to let you add in more complex instruments for other tracks. About also reports the amount of sample memory available. The wave generator allows you to load and play back wave files. And to start up, PSPSeq has about 7 megabytes of memory available for loading samples. And as new sounds are loaded, this number decreases by the file size of the wave file. 7 megabytes allows for about 80 seconds of 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz mono audio. If you lower the sample rate or the bit depth for the samples before loading them into PSPSeq, you can load in more samples and longer samples. So the next option in our system is help. So if I select help, this brings up a number of submenus that access various help screens in PSPSeq. These are really just simple overviews of different pieces of functionality and button combinations. They don't provide nearly as much information as you get from the user's guide or the quick reference sheet. So, for instance, if I go to the menu navigation, this brings up all the ways that you can navigate the menu. And then lastly, under System is Exit, which allows you to exit PSPSeq entirely and return to the cross-media bar.